Welcome to Epoch Island Assembly number 6. Um, like I said before before I started this meeting, we normally use a deck, but today have a Google Doc that we're going to go off of, and we're going to see how this goes. So there's going to be 6 parts that we're going to be covering in today's assembly phase. The first part is going to be basically finding our identity with Epoch Island. Really, really excited that after lots of work, we're finally, in my opinion, Epoch Island is really finding our footing in explaining who we are, what we're about, and how we're going to get to our goals. Number 2, I want to share with you guys something really exciting that we are getting elders, like right side here, more involved and incentivized for growth. So I know a lot of you guys are like, when growth? When are we actually going to get the industry, getting kind of crypto people in general knowing about what Epoch Island is up to? We are really, really, really bullish and excited about what this change could be. We are going to, I guess we've already announced this on Discord, but it looks like we're going full steam ahead on base. So it looks like, Ethereum gas prices were already expensive, but now with the rise in ETH price, they're just even more expensive. I was trying to send just a regular transaction the other day, and it was like $30 just for a transfer, which was crazy. We got Pax that's trying to join. Awesome. I do want to give you guys a general update on like development. We are ahead of pace with where we thought we would be, and that's really exciting. So fast that as early as next week, you guys are going to be able to get your hands on the DApp. We actually could have done it today, but we wanted to do it next week so that the Moai Labs team could be fully present for the days after that we launch it, so that it doesn't go into the weekend. But it is technically live, and we're going to be doing a screen share walkthrough of this today. I do want to share some conversations we've been having with the UMA protocol. I do know that the B Labs team, that you guys have obviously some connection with UMA, so we'd love to get y'all's insight and share some conversations we had with them on building a product potentially to help them. By the way, disclaimer, nothing is finalized or official here. It's just early conversation, so don't want to overstate any relationships with UMA at this time. And then last but not least, we have the 10,000 Epoch Early Access Beta competition. Essentially, what I'm going to be sharing with you guys is, starting next week, how to participate in this beta competition, and how to get a share of that 100,000. Did I say 10,000? It's actually 100,000 Epoch tokens, which is really exciting. Okay, I'm going to take
I
a
gotta
pause.
say, this is the most bullish meeting I think we've had so far. L2s, the number 5. I don't want to give too many details away yet. Holy crap!
Steve, are you my hype man right now? Thanks.
I must be. I am damn excited about those two.
You know it's good whenever the person that's working closest to Epoch is pumped about it. Like, that means we're on the right track. But Steve, would you say that, like, generally maybe this document is better than a deck? We just kind of like, see I don't know. Well, it's
I
not the
think
deck, it's the information.
I think the flow might be a little easier to be interactive, perhaps.
Yes. And then instead of me meandering with my words, I'm going to have a scripted paragraph, and then we're going to dive into it. So it'll be a lot more direct as well. So before I dive in, any last comments, questions, excitement, concerns, anything that somebody would like to add? Number 7 here to overtime. You guys can bring it up now or later, but would anybody like to add anything to the agenda?
Hey, Zach. It's my first time to speak here. It's a Houdini.
Houdini! I
Hey,
have, can I have to tell you first, Houdini, you make it so frustrating in order to be able to type your name into anything Discord or Twitter. So glad you're here.
Finally, I managed to attend a live assembly, and my mic is working, so I can speak now instead of typing. I would like to add on number 7, I had a brief chat with Steve, and I got really pumped about Hacktivate. So if you can just tell us some details about it, as much as you can.
Amazing. 100%. So that's actually, Hacktivate is going to be in our development update. So that's perfect timing that we'll be able to cover on it there. And And I'm glad you're pumped about it because hopefully we can articulate it fully to the extent of why it's so cool. And we've been using the code word Hacktivate here. The other thing that you might have, or we're going to be using in today's call, is called a perpetual funding machine. So you guys might be familiar with the term perpetual uh, motion machine, but if you see either of these two terms, they are referring to the same thing. But thanks, Houdini. Houdini, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
I think this is pretty stacked agenda. So if we can get to every item would be great.
Awesome. By the way, Pax, I think I said hello before you officially connected. So Pax, thanks for joining. If you did get a haircut, and that's what I'm
Thanks for having
seeing,
me.
nice haircut. If not, then your hair still looks good. So
I did, thanks. It's been a short while, and I'm glad to be here finally. So, I don't want to monopolize the time. Just let's get the show on the road. But
let's
it's good
do
to
it.
be with friends again.
Yeah, Pax, it's been awesome to see your continuous involvement since that first meeting, and excited that you're here today. So would anybody else like to add anything? As things come up, you guys can add things later, but any last suggestions for adding to the agenda today? You guys realize the less you suggest, the more I have to talk, right? All right, let's keep going. Okay, so phase 2 begins, finding our identity. So I usually don't like to read things on a live stream. I usually, as you guys know, like to be off the cuff and just real, but I will read these to get us set the stage. So we as Islanders have been spending most of 2024 really uniting and identifying our direction, our vision, and our roadmap forward. This is what all the last meetings have been on with those decks, and you guys have been providing so much feedback. So it might feel kind of slow in these last several weeks. It might feel like you guys wish things could just get off to the races. But we at Moai Labs, we really do believe that doubling down on talking about these has been a crucial part of setting us up basically to scale. Basically aiming so we know where we're going and how we're going to get there. And so today's call, we're going to be sharing two things that have represented the accumulation of a lot of this hard work. So we're going to be sharing a quick pitch deck of basically a pitch deck that I think will share the problem that we're really attacking. We've been sharing this with some of the elders. We've been sharing this with some investors and some other people in the space. And then we're going to share a new website design that we're playing around with. Just a quick disclaimer. This website design it was literally done in 2 hours last night. It needs a lot of tweaking, but it'll give you the feel of the next phase of Epoch Island and what we're doing. So without further ado, let's dive into, um, you know what? I'm actually going to do the website first, and then we'll get into the deck because I think it'll connect some dots. So this is not live or anything yet, or truly, but the next phase of Epoch Island that we've been trying to figure out is what can we do today over the next 1 to 3 years that sets us up the best to actually see a network state come to fruition. And whenever we've been retrospectively and introspectively thinking about this, at the core of it, we believe that for us to build a network state, we need the right people, and we need the resources, and we need the right foundational belief system to do that. And for all of those reasons, including the connections that we already have to the Epoch elders, and including just personally, our biggest excitement in crypto is building. Basically, this is where the narrative and the next phase of the on-chain Silicon Valley came into play. And the one sentence tagline to this is we fund based builders. You'll notice and figure out as we keep talking here why this says based. But this website, once you land on here, you will be directed into the 6 most important things that we want people to know about. So Epoch Island is a community-owned economy of crypto builders, investors, and projects. You can click here and immediately meet some of the people within Epoch Island. Second, together we fund and fuel base builders accelerating the world of on-chain innovation. So you can click here and actually get funding. This is where Houdini, where the Hacktivate and the Perpetual Funding machine will come into play at this point in time. Epoch Islanders use their passports to vote on which innovative projects or people to fund. So you can click here and immediately, with your passport, immediately start voting on what you want to see exist in the world. Maybe I can zoom in once here. I'll zoom in a little. Sorry about that, guys. In return, Islanders receive ownership, access, and upside from the innovation they support. So this is where somebody can click on the View Tokenomics and learn about that. We believe Epoch Island has the ability to create an economy larger than Silicon Valley. This will send people down an article that explains how we believe that's possible and basically the ins and outs of if it were possible, what would it take? And then last but not least, just connecting all the dots here. Again, as we scale, our end game remains the same. We want to expand into a network state specifically for builders and startups. Now, it's going to take some time to get there, but I wanted to show all of this, how it's all connected. A lot of the network states today are starting physical first, which is a huge lift in time, attention, resources, all of that. And what we basically believe is we want to start by getting something right first on chain. And then by the time we come into the physical world, if we want to do that at a later date, we now have a strong digital belief system and ethos that is uniting us, a culture. So rather than creating a culture in the physical world, let's create a culture and an ethos first, and then bring it to the physical world together. It's going to be such a solid starting point. So last thing I'll say while we're on this page, if you click on any of these, our next step that we're going to have is it will be a very clear landing page with a video at the top, 30 seconds, maybe 60 seconds tops, that explains exactly, it's a great high quality video, not like me just talking on a video like this, but a really animated high quality video of exactly how to get funding, how to start voting, how the tokenomics work. So we're really investing in some videos right now to do that. And in each page will just be very, very clear, concise on how to get started. Because I think that's what we're really missing right now is that cohesiveness from somebody learning about Epoch Island to then wanting to jump in. And then we realize that like really what is our bread and butter right now is we've attracted some amazing people and builders, investors in the space. So what we really want to do is spotlight all of these people. We got Mr. Right Side here, so that we can elevate them to setting the culture and quality of people we expect within Epoch Island. So this website might seem kind of barren right now, but what the real goal is to get people where they need to be as quickly as possible without getting lost on the website. You will still be able to find all the things that are on the current website. They're just not going to be on an infinite scrolling website as we have now. So this is the website that we are exploring and very excited about. However, we should always have feedback and constructive criticism and/or things that resonated with you guys. Does anybody have any comments or questions on the website and how we can make it better?
Zach, I do have one comment. Can we add the tab for the live products?
Sorry, you said add the tab for the large what?
For the live products, like the ITO product, SGR, Activate, and so on.
Yes. I was actually had a button here earlier that said like view projects or view basically portfolio is like the way to think about it. So yes, we need to remove one of those to get out of to get the products, but I think you're exactly right. Kind of on that screenshot we showed previously, which is like, you know, you have Hacktivate, you have maybe even people want to do flash stake, you have the Union DAO, stuff like that. Is that what you were envisioning?
Exactly, yes. So
Okay.
Yeah,
when someone goes onto the website, they understand what Epoch Island is doing and what they have been doing and what they are about. Not just funding builders, but they have already funded builders, and those builders already built some products.
Yeah, so basically, we need to show that this is not hypothetical. It is in motion, it is working, and here's what's being developed. I completely think that's a great idea. Go ahead, Pax.
Yeah, just very quickly. Yeah, that's a very good point. You need some kind of traction, so almost like maybe like a ribbon that's like featured, featured and then see more. Like maybe even this, because I like this format and everything that's on the screen right now. It's pretty cool. It's just what's missing is just like something that you can take a look and says, aha, here are like 3 or 4 feature things that we already built, and then you click and go to a page that has a bunch of other stuff. So maybe I'm not a designer. It seems like a cool approach, but up to you guys to see if this is the way you want to do it. But definitely we
Yeah.
need some kind of featured sort of slot for traction.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such an interesting dilemma between like featured and trying to stay um like agnostic, but we still need to push up the things that um can get people seeing the vision the most. So I really like that. I think I'm having this visual of like, if any of you guys have seen the show Silicon Valley, where you like look down and you see the logos from like Hulu and Google and Facebook, you have like this visual of looking into Epoch Island and almost seeing like the projects that have their own metaphorical building, that they're building here, that these things are happening and the activity is going there. So that'll be a fun thought experiment to try to figure out how to articulate that into graphics. But thank you guys for reminding us that's really important that people see. Any other comments or questions on this page?
Sorry if I missed this, but is based builders? What does based mean? Is that for the L2?
Yeah, so this is a play on words where it's one of those, for better for worse, when you know, you know, when you don't know, you don't know. For the people who are indoctrinated into base, this is going to really, really click and resonate with them. So yes, this is a nod, if you will, to base, and based is becoming, I mean, even before base, the chain, I think based was already a terminology in crypto is like somebody who's based. Um, but just to maybe give one extra inkling of insight here, we actually this week met with Jesse, the founder of Base, and that's what really made us want to go all in on Base, is seeing how much we are aligned with what they're doing in their community, and Jesse just as a person himself. So yes, I gave you a very long-winded answer. Bahama, did you have a leading question with that, or did that answer it?
It's for being the on-chain Silicon Valley. It seems a little, I don't know. It's tough to want to just dedicate it to only one L2 just because there's so much innovation going on all the other chains. But that's an interesting approach to the strategy for Epoch.
So, really interesting the angle of which you have interpreted this. It's so interesting how I can read this and view it so differently, uh, and that your interpretation is just as valid. So, just to clarify, um, we are not exclusive to funding people on base. We are simply deploying our protocol of the funding source on base, but you can build on any chain or anywhere, or even not be building on chain in theory. So does that
Gotcha. Cool. Yep, that makes sense.
does that help?
Awesome.
That's really interesting. Steve, I'd love to make a note of that on our next Monday call to see, because we're still playing around, as you guys can see. We really, really do like on-chain Silicon Valley. What we're not as sure yet is what is this next H2. So if you guys have more suggestions on this, we'd love to love. Maybe we're just having a high on base right now because we just met with Jesse from there and we're feeling really good about it. But I see Houdini came unmuted for a second.
Yeah, to be honest, Zach, I liked it, and it did not direct me into being exclusive to base, because it's base, not based. So in based is like the amazing or strong builders, or stoned, like the word we keep
Yeah.
using, island slang. So I did not get it confused with being exclusive to base chain.
Yeah, that's it. Well, good. Maybe we should do a poll of that sometime to see how much people viewed it in different ways. It reminds me of recently, I had the term on there that said, we fund builders moving the world on chain, And then Steve interpreted that as like, we only fund builders who are basically building things that move us from real world assets to on-chain stuff. So it's always interesting how different texts can elicit different feelings. So thanks for clarifying that. Really good question there, Bahama. Any other comments or questions before we keep going?
Yeah, just it's fine. It's it attracts attention. It's the word is like a little bit coded because in like internet slang, based means a couple of things, and it's I don't know if this is the right terminology. It's like coded right. Like a lot of like right-wing people are like consider themselves based. So if this is the kind of messaging that you're shooting for, it is going to resonate with some people and be like, oh, this is based, I like it. But it's good. You have to put something, so this will attract attention, and I think it's more than good enough for now. Like it communicates well. It attracts attention, and will like you will take a look to see what this is all about. So I don't know. That's just my 2 cents.
That's another thing. I had no idea the connotation to the right wing ness. But the moment you said it, like I can maybe see some of the correlations with that. But like you said, we need to start with somewhere that maybe resonates with some people and doesn't others, and then we can always mitigate. As long as I think our why and our North Star stays the same, then we can find the vocabulary to articulate that over time. So really good feedback, guys. Anything else that you guys would like to have before we keep going? Got a long meeting today. Not that long, but all right. So given this page, what I think would be helpful now is to go to the pitch deck. So hopefully it loads. There we go. So up until now, the website is really positioned having to capture everybody's attention. But what is the perspective that we want to give to people that are like learning about Epoch Island as potential islanders, or if they want to have a deeper understanding of what we're trying to do? So I think we all can agree we've had a nice start with attracting some really cool people, but what actually is Epoch Island? So this is where we're talking about right now. We're funding base builders, innovating the on. The analogy that we're really presenting is if Ethereum is Earth. Some people maybe disagree with that analogy, but if it is Earth, and if base is California, we want to believe that Epoch Island is the Silicon Valley. Actually, when we talked with Jesse, he made the analogy that he believes that the United States is optimism, and then base is California, and then we would like to be the Silicon Valley within that. So this could have negative connotations too, depending on, again, negative connotations of the United States and or California, but it is the thing that's clicking right now with some people. So what is the actual problems we're solving for? So we believe that fundraising is stuck in the 1990s. Let me make this big. You got some fun AI generated pictures here. And we're not the only ones. This is if any of you guys saw Brian Armstrong, the founder of Coinbase, he listed out like his top 5 or 10 ideas that he has that he thinks people should be working on. And number 4 on his list, I encourage you guys to go watch this video, is just basically capital formation. It's very high friction and uneven distribution. We saw the boom of ICOs. So there's obviously product market fit there, but we saw also the downsides of like ICOs as well, and the destruction that happened thereafter. So let's keep going here. Basically, there's these core problems within fundraising. And this has to do with not just fundraising for like an investment. This could be fundraising for a grant that you want to do. It could be fundraising for a nonprofit. It could be fundraising just for like you want to see something exist into the world. It could be fundraising for getting somebody into college. Like fundraising is very open-ended. It doesn't always have to be an investment transaction. But basically, builders lose several weeks or months trying to secure funding. Those of you on this room who are entrepreneurs have seen or expressed this, and also Pax as well. I'm sure you've Pax, were you raising your hand in agreement there? Is that what that was? Yeah. So you're spread thin. Builders are spread thin, applying for grants, accelerators, endless amount of VCs or angels. There's a high majority of the builders never get the opportunity to get funded, so it's still very much exclusive to a select few individuals. Also, you're limited to basically offering equity or tokens as a person who's trying to raise capital. And this might seem like not that weird right now, but we believe within 10 years, this structure is going to seem pretty prehistoric. We'll talk a little more about that in the future. So in conclusion, right now, everything is slow, exclusive, restricted, and permissioned. So we believe that basically the fundraising model as it is today is antithetical to the world of crypto and on-chain opportunity. So what is our solution? We're wanting to create something. We are building something that is fast, open, inclusive, and permissionless. And this is Houdini, where the perpetual funding machine is coming into play, or codename Hacktivate, if we want to call it that, that we're going to be getting into now. So how this works is basically builders can make one simple on-chain proposal rather than spending 10, 50, 100 different pitches to different people, one on-chain proposal. Here's an example of what this would look like on the actual dApp. You enter your name or the project that you're representing. You enter your funding request, which can be made on either Twitter or Farcaster. I guess Warpcast would be the technical place. And then you enter the ETH address to receive the funding. And within these three fields, you click Submit Funding Request, and then boom, immediately you have created a funding portal. And now you have a link that you can share with your friends, family, community, anybody within a few seconds. As a reminder, you can do this as a person. If you want to do anything in the world, if you want to see anything exist, you can create a funding portal and people can start supporting you. So this doesn't have to be if you're just like a engineer that's building the next Uniswap. It doesn't have to be like that. This can be also, for example, I'll just bring up like the B Labs team. If you guys want to do something within Epoch Island, now B Labs can create a funding portal, and then me and anybody else can vote for you guys to receive funding to supplement and get resources and capital to you guys to support that. So then this gets builders can get a flow of capital within minutes. So without doing the whole months and weeks of funding, technically you can receive funding within minutes. So how does that actually work? Well, whenever you create a funding portal, your name or project gets on this list directory of everything that can be funded. And then what Epoch Islanders will do is the things they find interesting, they can click vote. Like, I want to see this exist in the world. I'm going to click vote. So they would come to the account and they would basically choose how much of their Epoch Island like passport value or passport reputation, whatever you want to call it, they can vote for you. And the more votes you get, the more funding you would be earning. How this would look like from the builder's perspective, this is like Jesse, what it would look like from his perspective. And again, as a disclaimer, Jesse and Base do not have any official relationship with Epoch Island. We're just using him as an example here. But on his side, he would see how much funding he's earned, how many supporters he has, and how much funds he has claimable today, and clicks, boom, he starts clicking that, and he can withdraw the money at any point in time. So basically, we believe everyone should have an opportunity to build. We also believe that you should be able to get funding on any form of value, not just tokens and equity. So maybe some people want to offer utility or access or points, or in like B Labs and what you guys are doing, reputation. Like, I want to get funding and you guys will earn reputation within my ecosystem. Like, that's a huge win here. So what makes Epoch different? Where are we actually positioned? This is, if there was one graphic, I think that would connect dots for a lot of people listening to this or watching this. This is the single graphic I would encourage you to look at. It's very simple. Basically, anybody who wants to see anything exist in the world, that wants to build anything, there's these phases. You're in exploration mode. then you get an idea, and then you're building, then you deploy that, then you somehow try to find product market fit, and then you try to scale it. Now, this is not to scale. Product market fit is probably going to be way farther down the line here than an outcome of what is most likely. But basically, venture capital, they do fund some things at the idea stage. That's for sure. But most of the capital comes as you find product market fit, as you get some growth. There are these alternative funding options like accelerators, grant funding, and angel investors that can fund you at the idea stage and maybe up to like product market fit. But where Epoch Island, where we are looking to have our bread and butter, at least for the first year or so, is in this early exploration phase. So if you want to fund something at the earliest stages before anybody else, Epoch Island is the place to go. Or if you have an idea that's not fully thought out yet and you're just trying to get some early insight to what you want to build, Epoch Island is the best place to go in our opinion. There's two sentences that whenever I told Steve, really resonated with him. But this is basically, you can look at it as where you would go to find pre-alpha projects. So right now, whenever you guys are searching for alpha in crypto, you're learning about projects after they've already like kind of been off the ground just a little. But if you want to get at the earliest stages of a project, you need to go to where the builder, the individual is exploring their idea. And if you can give them value early and align yourselves with what they're doing, that's the best way, in our opinion, to get upside and ownership of people and projects in the world. So imagine if you were able to be voting on Hayden Adams before he was ever creating Uniswap. Imagine if you were able to fund Stani from Aave before he was ever creating Aave. This is like an early way to build relationships with people that you want to support, and then hopefully get some upside as they grow as well. Let's keep going here. Maybe. Oh, maybe that's.
To jump in here.
Go ahead, Steve.
If you were funding voting for Aave in the early days, right, the pre-alpha, maybe Aave is promising points or something. Like there's some back and forth that can exist in this system, and it's up to them on how that converts later.
Thanks for connecting that dot, Steve. Maybe I didn't fully articulate that. This isn't just like a voting. I mean, there might be some philanthropic voting here where I'm doing it just because I want to see this exist, but a good probable majority of votes will come from what's in it for me. And so think of anybody listening on this call. If you're building or thinking about building something, what can you offer people that will maybe get them like interested in voting on you? So Steve, let's use you for an example because this is super relevant to you. So for those of you who don't know, Steve, I'm not going to tell the exact project, but like you are wanting to build something in the space in your fun and free time. But like it's not like full on, like you're not going to raise like venture capital or anything, right? So you just want to build something. And Steve, if I want to support you right now, it's like you don't have a token or equity or company or anything like that. You could say, hey guys, if you vote for me, for every vote that you have for me, I'm going to give you 10 points. And then if this product actually gets some momentum, I'm going to convert all the points into potentially points to tokens at a later date. Or potentially I'll convert these points into like first beta users, whatever it is. So like Steve, is that help connect the dots, you think?
Yeah. Like the pre-alpha, if someone has an idea, they're in the early stages of trying to figure out, well, I want to do a lending protocol or whatever it is that the project may be. There's no tokens that exist yet that they can even give, right? So what can they give before that to reward the people who are helping to fund them to get their idea off the ground? Like the points seem to be the really popular thing right now. Everyone's eating that stuff up. So I think that'd be easy to explain to anyone.
Yeah, and the other sentence I had that really connected with you, and then I'll shoot this over to you, Houdini. Steve, I said invest in $0 market cap projects. Essentially, it's like there is no market cap for them yet because they don't exist. So you're investing in at $0. All right, go ahead, Houdini.
Just occurred to me, how can we prevent scammers from taking advantage of this model?
It's a great question. So to restate the problem that I hear, to let me know, Houdini, if this is uh, along the lines of what you're thinking. Somebody comes in with a project that is maybe a fake project, fake idea, something like that, and they get voting. Is that the reality that what you're looking to
That's
prevent?
correct. That's correct. And promises whoever votes for him or her certain points or tokens or whatever, and then they don't keep their promise and they take the money and run.
Yeah. So there's two ways to think about this that we're thinking about. So first and foremost, we are looking at having potentially where the elders, for you to submit your funding proposal, an elder basically needs to sponsor you. This is one solution. We're not entirely sure yet, but this would add friction to where if an elder presents a scam or project that is extracting value, the elder would essentially lose their eldership and all of their benefits and stuff like that. So that adds a small extra bit if you want to go down that route. Another
Okay.
thing to think about is this is where the UMA protocol will come into play when we get to that. How the optimistic oracle that UMA works is a dispute system. So how this would work is if money is streaming to somebody and they say, I'm going to build X, Y, and Z, and then they don't build X, Y, and Z, and it's really, really bad. If they have to click a button to claim the funds that they've earned, the UMA Oracle could allow us a dispute system where the Islanders could say, no, 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 you didn't do that. We're not going to unlock your money. So that's another interesting thing, is like a dispute system of sorts. Another interesting angle to understand is like the worst case scenario here that you're describing, no individual Islander actually loses money. Like in an ICO days, if you were to invest in an ICO and they scammed you, you'd lose all your ETH, right? But in this model, you're not actually losing any tokens directly. Now you are being inflated. There's some version of inflation to a small amount, like 1%, 0.5%, something small. But what's interesting here is like you don't actually get fully rugged. You get like indirectly slightly rugged from inflation, the worst case scenario, which is bad, but not like the worst thing in the world. And then the last way to think about this, I'm just throwing random ideas at you because we're still trying to solve this, is it a feature or a bug if people can vote on themselves or friends or whatever they want to do? So let me give an example. Like Houdini, you set up a funding portal for yourself, you start funding yourself, and you start voting for yourself, right? Like you could see how that's not really adding much value to Epoch Island. What's interesting though is you're essentially liquidity mining in a weird way because you had to add, VPOC to get the voting and vote for yourself. So you're kind of liquidity mining. But what it kind of does is it adds a threshold where for somebody to get votes, they need to offer more value than you can get for yourself for voting for yourself. So think about it like this. Whenever you're in the United States, it's like 5% interest rates right now if you buy like Treasury bills or T-bills or whatever it is. How investing works right now is if something can't give you better than 5% returns, you just simply keep it in T-bills. So what's interesting here is like, let's just assume that we think this is a feature and not a bug. Everybody will vote for themselves by default until or unless there's somebody that adds more value to them than they can add to themselves, in which case there's an opportunity cost now between voting for yourself and voting for somebody else. So I just wanted to throw 4 random things at you that are ideas that we're thinking about. Pax, I saw your hand up, but Houdini, did anything I say there click or provide any clarity?
Yeah, they do. The elders filtration layer will be good. It's not decentralized, but it's good. Maybe maybe splitting the payments in tranches with milestones will be another solution that you mentioned.
Yep.
If we take a step back, where these funds will come from? Will it come from minting Epoch, or It will come from the passports holders dev fund.
So, to start, these would be, so the Epoch Islanders would vote. I just saw that my computer's about to die. The Epoch Islanders would vote to say, hey, we want to put 1 million Epoch tokens into this perpetual funding machine. Okay. We could start off with something small if we want to do it to like a test run of like 10,000 Epoch. But basically, we as Epoch Islanders establish a budget for the perpetual funding machine. And then we establish a duration for that. So if we wanted to do 1 million Epoch and over the course of a year, that's essentially 1% inflation, roughly, of the Epoch token that we are willing to accept because we feel like it'll generate more value than it is taking away. We're calling it the innovation rate, but it's literally just an inflation rate. But the more interesting answer for you is UMA or any other project that we talk to, they can jumpstart their own Hacktivate. They can Hacktivate their own community by creating a campaign with their own token and with their own voting power, like their own voting governance token. So with UMA, they could say, hey, we're going to put in $100,000. The voting token is UMA, and they fund all of the actual capital funding part of it. So UMA would be willing to do this maybe because it could replace their current grants funding program and really allow them to be hands off with that. So hopefully that answered. Does that answer your question? It's Epoch and or if any projects can add their own tokens to the mix.
Yeah, it does. It does. If like UMA will fund the grants program from their native token, they will just be using the Hacktivate protocol and take a
Yes.
fee. Yeah.
Yes, and you might have already connected the dots, but if we turn on a 10% fee here, which is not too crazy, now, and if there's 100 or 10 to 100 DAOs using this to basically invigorate and activate their community, that's where Hacktivate comes along. The term Hacktivate is like activate your community to do something. We believe that if this is actually built well, and if we get off the ground, that this can be used for funding not just startups or projects or community members, but full-on contributors as well. It could be a decentralized way to get people into a DAO working and get funding on adding value in an impact way to DAOs in the long run. That's getting ahead of ourselves, but you can start to see if we crack this code, the scale and potential revenue for Epoch Island to do this for without any inflation on Epoch token if we get down the line. I see Ninchi had his hand up and I need to plug in my computer. So Ninchi, I'm going to allow you to, if you could fill up at least 60 seconds, maybe that's too much of sharing. And then after that, if Pax wants to go either, go ahead, Ninchi.
Yeah, sure. No, I was just like looking to add on what Houdini already opened in a way that, however, I get it now. We have, let's say, multiple roads, but all need to, let's say, lead to one place, and this being the Epoch Treasury. Because I also get the idea of if we decide we are going to cast 1 million or mint 1 million of Epoch tokens, but to be the true funding, this means, and to, let's say, for the project that is looking to be funded, most probably it will end on the market, and this is where the community will, let's say, will be heard the most. So we need to really think carefully on the mechanism how if Epoch tokens are the one that are, let's say, the subject of the sponsorship or however, how to prevent, let's say, not to end on the market, just to extract the value needed to, I don't know, buy the laptop, acquire the developer that is not interested in Epoch tokens, but maybe only in ETH, and so on and so forth. So this is, let's say, just the area. And I would be also looking, not maybe at this point, but something more on-chain, because network stake is everything about being on-chain rather than any, let's say, off-chain voting mechanisms in sense who is going to vote ZEH, elders, and so on and so forth. Should be more, let's say, code-based stuff to my mind.
Ninchi, really appreciate that. Just Pax, if I can respond just very quickly to that. So Ninchi, just a quick clarifying question on your second statement. Did something about what you've seen so far make you think that this is not going to be on-chain?
Yep. The part that if I apply tomorrow and I present my project, I need to get upvoted to, let's say, to make it. And these upvotes are going to come from individuals being present in the community and, let's say, upvotings. But maybe I got it wrong, but it's a upvoting in a sense, give me thumbs up, and how many thumbs ups are enough like for me to pass it, then this is for me all off-chain. But if it's connected to the tokens that I'm holding or anything, passport and then stuff, let's say, behind it, then it's more than fine. Then it
that's exactly it. So how we view this is your voting is done on-chain through your passport value, through your through basically your funding, how much VPOC basically you have is the answer here. So it is all on chain, and this is another reason to do base, because it's probably going to take like a few cents to make a vote. So yeah, that's just something I didn't connect the dots. This is not like an off-chain Reddit kind of thing. This is how our goal is to be on chain with this. The last thing I'll say here, you said that we need to be careful with like the Epoch inflation, because I do think a good majority of people who get funding through here might sell their Epoch. I mean, they're caring more about what they're building, not caring about the Epoch ecosystem. But I just want to think about it from a few different perspectives. This is no different than like how a regular venture capitalist works. They have a certain amount of money, they spend that money, and then they hope that the money that they're spending makes more value than it loses. And so I actually think it's not a different problem than a venture capitalist has. They're not expecting to get any of that cash back. They're expecting their cash to be used. But I will just agree with you on the general principle is we need to really set up the architecture and the incentives in a way that makes it to where we use as little amount of Epoch as possible. Like if we're raising ETH, if we're getting ETH from funding, let's use ETH instead of Epoch. I would agree with that. But also, if you do receive Epoch, make sure that those people have immediate reasons to reinvest that back into Epoch Island in some type of way. Maybe they can earn yield on it, maybe some other way. So we're just now getting started, but I just want to mention, I think it is definitely, at the end of the day, we need to get more value into the ecosystem than we are losing. We are losing value through inflation. We need to gain more value through that. So those are the two levers we have to pull, and we need to think very thoughtfully about them, just like you are right now. All right, Pax, you've been waiting long enough. Go ahead, Pax.
Okay, so yeah, lightning round. That's a good point. I wanted to mention that because when I was in Giveth, one of the problems was that we all got paid quite a bit in Give tokens, and then people had to dump, and the founder would buy it OTC, but he also runs out of money. It's not a good solution, because if you have to fund the project, you have to, if it's not something that's ETH or USDC or something like that, you have to sell that token because you have operational costs. That's just a fact. Now,
can I get a clarifying question just real quick on Giveth? What was the demand? What was the demand for the Give token?
So that was kind of an interesting thing. Like the idea is basically that the Give token, the demand was that essentially you can lock it up, and then you get a boost in how much you get from the staking, and then you can use it to sort of rank projects that are currently in the they're using it for charity fundraising, but
Okay.
it's like a similar vein in this sense. And then essentially you get basically a percentage of these give backs that go into the platform. So I think the idea in the end is like a percentage of all the donations goes back to the projects based on their rank.
Okay.
I don't know if this has been implemented yet because it's a little touchy because it's charitable donations and so on and so forth. But it is an idea that we can sort of implement.
Okay.
The way
Yeah,
that
sorry.
this currently
Go ahead.
sits in my head. Sorry, you wanted to interrupt? Okay, so the way this currently sits in my head is like you have the base sort of permissionless. I like the idea of permissionlessness, which is the idea is that people can ask for funding of any kind. And then on top of that, you let people fund projects. Then on top of that, you build a service that says, okay, so there's this group of islanders that have kicked this into high gear, and they're going to help you with due diligence. So we're going to set up a mechanism that lets you, let's just say, create certain more or less structured funding proposals that we can then follow up on. And this is a service that we do. And then on top of that, you say, well, yes, also, the islanders are willing to sponsor projects. So you have funding, and then we can match. You understand? It's not just like, oh, we are picking projects that we want to fund. We are, for example, we are doing like a matching bonus, like Gitcoin does. And then we can vote amongst ourselves through Epoch how to take and say, okay, for this month, we are giving out $1 million worth of crypto to funding proposals that have passed some kind of, threshold. And then we rank them and we give it out. This way, we separate this into layers so it's permissionless, and then people can, by people I mean to use product development terminology, like users that are looking to gain funding can sort of use different signaling methods, and then they can use due diligence from Epoch to achieve greater success. That's the way it currently sits in my head as a possible approach that sort of engages both the islanders, the token, and it doesn't limit itself necessarily to just, we are just funding everything ourselves and that's it. There are some downsides. The big downsides, I think, are long tail problems, which happens in Giveth all the time because there's like thousands of projects and in Gitcoin too, and most of them never receive a cent. And the second problem is you always get like lemons. You will get projects that are sort of unofficial and they're just like scams. And whenever you have a permissionless system that's not 100% curated, this is the problem. And I promise lightning round just one more point, which is it reduces the load on us to make sure and vet and verify every single project, which doesn't scale at all over time. That's it.
Man, Pax, I really, really want to have a breakout call to dive into that deeper because your familiarity with the Giveth system and like the takeaways and the pros and the cons is going to be really helpful here. So there's several threads you went down that I really want to pull, but I'm trying to figure out which ones we can and go on. But generally, I just want to make the statement that like you brought up like these extra. Well, the one thing that resonated with me is like some type of fund matching can help reduce inflation. I really like that idea. Like it means like, hey, you bring half the party, we'll bring the other half. Like that's a great start. Like if you can get $1 from a whatever, we can match that. The other point,
just very quickly, it's like a signaling mechanic. All VCs do this. You have an idea, you go to a VC, and they're like, "Well, who's leading? Why? Because that means it's easier to follow up on somebody who gave trust to a project than it is to be the first person to put your neck on the line. And this signaling is important because it's much safer to say we will match than to say we will necessarily fund something, because you don't have any idea, no information if something makes sense or will succeed. but matching, at least in theory, really reduces this risk by quite a bit.
Yeah, I think there's one thing that like in my ideal version and your ideal version, like there's something there that like again, I want to have a breakout meeting, identify what it is that like is slightly different, and then talk about that. But at the end of the day, are you familiar with like how velodrome, aerodrome works, where the LPs, the voters vote where the emissions should go to which liquidity pools? Basically, you lock up Velo, you get VE Velo, and then you can vote on where emissions go. I view this a lot like that, where it's like you join Epoch Island, you vote on where emissions go, and you're really incentivized to fund. And if there are services come up that will help Epoch Island, they can come through the same voting service. So I just want to share the flexibility. We can also hire Epoch Islanders to do services for Epoch Island through this mechanism. But we're getting a little into the weeds. Let's have a breakout call with that because it's really interesting. Okay.
Apologies
Go
if
ahead,
this has
Steve.
already been discussed. Vote null. There's another way to prevent funding misallocated. So if I'm a voter and I don't see anything that I think is adding value, I can vote. I can vote Epoch Treasury as the output, which means tokens go right back where they came from, and they don't get
Yeah.
spent.
Thanks for the reminder there, Steve. Yeah, there's two mechanisms that we were also thinking about reducing value extraction. Like Steve just said, if nothing crosses the value threshold, you don't have to vote. Like it's not that a million Epoch will automatically go through emissions. Up to a million Epoch will go, but likely less than that if we see bad people or projects come through. The second thing that we've been debating is having negative votes, where if you see somebody come through that's off, that's trying to create something and extract that's not really good, you can maybe we haven't fully thought about this yet, but like you can negate some of their votes through yours. So you can use your votes in a negative manner to push down scam projects as well. But Steve, thanks for the reminder. All right. I'm gonna try to keep going here. Um, let's get into the elders a bit. By the way, I know that we're already an hour and 10, but I think this is gonna start picking up speed here. So getting elders involved. So we've got some amazing elders, but we really want to pick up their just involvement and overall impact on Epoch Island. So um, we basically went back to the drawing board and asked these questions. What does it mean to be an elder? What are the roles, responsibilities, and benefits? How can we create the right incentive structure to get elders more involved? So we do believe we've cracked this code to some extent. And for those of you that are elders on this call, I messaged every single elder. We have about 70 plus people in our Telegram right now. And basically, we're going to go through like a formal onboarding process where they're giving the insights and the tools to basically knowing how that they can add value to Epoch Island. And specifically, there's two ways that we've identified. One is elders, once we look at this pledging system that we're about to go through, would be able to basically sponsor new Epoch Islanders. And if they sponsor somebody that ends up becoming an Islander, they will get, we're ranging between 2.5 to 10% of basically a sponsorship reward. So basically the elders will be the highly incentivized to find new people and talent in the space that get into Epoch Island. Which they're not currently incentivized to do so. So that's a huge unlock. Imagine if an elder right now sees that they have, some of our elders have 50,000 plus people on Twitter. They could say, hey, you guys, if you guys need a sponsorship to get into Epoch Island, hit me up. I can create a sponsorship code for you and it'll let you in. And now the person is let in, so that's the benefit. They can get into Epoch Island, and it's good for the elder because they can receive basically like an onboarding reward. Second to that, we talked about before about maybe to make a proposal to Epoch Island, maybe they need to be sponsored by an elder. This is really cool because imagine if somebody gets funding for $100,000, we can have a mechanism where the elder gets 2.5 to 10% of that funding. So what elders are incentivized to do is find builders that have the ability to start building and then get a lot of votes. So they're incentivized to find things that our islanders will vote for. So it's all incentivized or aligned, I guess you could say. So just to recap, there's two main things. Find new islanders. If they do this increases the liquidity and the value of the Epoch token and our overall funding capabilities, and recruit builders to make proposals to Epoch Island to add value. So hopefully those two things make general sense. Does anybody have any specific questions about this new development here? All right, we will keep going. So finding our home base. So it might be obvious, but Ethereum is expensive as hell on mainnet. So we did briefly connect with the founder of Base and greatly aligned with what he's doing there. Also, I'm a bit biased, but I'm a big believer in Coinbase is the entry point for the next billion people into crypto. And there's just a natural onboarding process into Base through the basically their on-ramp. So after lots of conversations, we will be launching the pledging, the passports, and the liquidity pool on Base. And we are also deeply thinking about what does this mean for VEPOC holders. And we believe we have a pretty smooth process for making sure that VEPOC holders, including myself, are taken care of, and there's no basically friction point added to them through having a pool basically on mainnet and on Base, which we will have after this. Any comments or questions about Base and specifically? And by the way, I just saw somebody join. David, thanks for joining. Appreciate you joining. Any questions about Base? All right.
I have one. Does this mean that we are abandoning like L1 and everything goes and transforms to the Base, or just partially, or what's the plan?
So I think the question below that's the same question, Nancy, tell me if I'm wrong, is like, will VEPOC holders still be like a value on like mainnet? Is that like the general question, like liquidity and all that? Or do you have if you can go one layer deeper with your question, it would be appreciated.
No. This was exactly my question. Let's say
Yeah.
the original chain is, let's say, Ethereum. So we are, of course, for the known reasons, exploring, let's say, L2s, mainly for the gas fees. But does this mean that like we're transitioning everything from Ethereum to the Base, and we are abandoning like Ethereum, or we are like still there and we are just adding Base as another, let's say, option for the user?
The reason I'm trying to get clarity on when you say abandon, it's such a stark word here, because we think of Base as an extension.
Leaving behind us.
Because we think of Base as an extension of Ethereum, so it feels like it's kind of still our deep level consensus layer that's protecting all of our assets. But taking that to aside, Steve, maybe your brain is sharper than mine right now. My brain is getting a little on like how we've thought about this process. But Ninchi, I will just say in general, we do believe within a year, 2 or 3 years, however long this process takes, a majority of all activity will be happening on Base. I will just also give you insight though, Ninchi. What's really interesting through our voting mechanics, from my understanding, and Steve, this is where I want you to jump in here and help. You can set up governance voting where it takes in consideration voting on mainnet and on Base at the same time. Like that is a technically possible thing to do. So where that it's not like an abrupt adjustment or anything like that, where we have to do some big switch flip or anything like that. Steve, do you have a better memory of this process?
So the steps we've talked about is a migration process. So no one's left behind, no one's screwed over on the existing VBOC holders on mainnet. So what will probably end up happening, what's on our plate at the moment, is on base we would launch new liquidity pool, allow VPOC to be minted there, and then we would vote to turn off the ability to mint new VPOC on mainnet. And then basically, if anyone who wants to participate in the system and vote would need to do so on base. And then after about a year, we could vote to permanently turn off voting rights on mainnet. And therefore, anyone who's left there can withdraw their position without forfeiting any of the rewards they've earned from the VPOC rewards so far, because all of their stakes should have matured by then, a year later. And then that way, no one's lost any assets, no one's lost voting power. And then everyone can choose on their own time when they want to remove their position on mainnet and move over to base. And that way everything's on L2 and gas fees are held a lot cheaper. And then we can consolidate everything into one spot, all the voting, all the liquidity, so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think my main thing I want to get across there is we as Epoch Island, as Moai Labs, myself and Steve, we are big VEPOC holders. So we think deeply about not making sure that current VEPOC holders are negatively affected by this. We are deeply incentivized to align with that, and the process will be smooth as much as possible to make sure that if governance decides so, this is all done through governance, we can't make this happen, then there could be a potential migration path, and governance can decide if they want to close the door on layer 1 for governance or keep it open. It's really up to governance. Ninchi, does that help at all?
Yep. So far, so clear.
Okay, cool. Thanks. And thanks, Steve, for helping my brains a little mush by now. So I think a lot of people are always asking, like, the term roadmap is whatever. Sorry, I'm so dismissive about the term roadmap because we're wanting to do a lot of things, but what I wanted to provide is a clear 1, 2, 3. What are we building? What do we focus on? And what is the general timeline of these things? So there's 3 main things to know about: pledging, passports, and then this perpetual funding machine. Pledging is basically already built. It's actually, we're going to do a screen share here in a second. And we're going to be doing like on-chain on base run through of this with you guys next week. So that's how quickly this is around the corner. What the pledging system represents is the wait list to get into Epoch Island, as like with your passport. So we have a goal of $1 million in contributions to signal demand from you guys, the Islanders and the Elders, and basically filling this up is going to be my personal focus over the next several weeks or months or however long it takes. Like, get the initial momentum. This is really important to show that we are building something that people want, and we get the capital so that whenever we do turn on all of these things we want to do, there's resources available to do so. We could, in theory, launch this tomorrow, but if we only saw $100,000 of pledges come through, is that actually going to be able to get this flywheel going of Epoch Island? Maybe, maybe not. But for now, we have $1 million of pledges, and this is my life for the next weeks and months. Second, the pledges then can be converted into passports. This represents the inflow of liquidity and Epoch buy pressure to greatly increase our funding capacity. So once the $1 million pledge goal is hit, people will be able to convert their pledge into a passport. So at a technical level, what's happening? The ETH is going from the pledge to the passport. What is actually happening is the ETH is going to be put into the liquidity pool, which adds buy pressure to the Epoch token over time. So not financial advice. There can obviously still be Epoch selling during this process as well. But basically, the wave should be shifting to help make sure that if the Epoch token goes up, we have more assets that we can use to fund people and projects. So hopefully that connects some dots there. And then the last but not least, once we have the passports in place, we can turn on what we've been talking about up until now, which is Hacktivate, or this perpetual funding machine. So this represents value accrual. So builders and people who need funding, they need your votes. So to get your votes, they need to basically offer you something of value. This can be tokens, access, utility, points, future equity if somebody wants to do something with like more traditional equity, whatever it is. The value accrual comes to whenever you turn this on, people basically need to start, bribing is a negative word, but yeah, offering you something for your votes. And that's when our goal is that the world is competing over you and your votes because they need them for funding. So hopefully that connects a few dots there. So at a high level, and that these are always subject to change, the first thing we're going to have is the beta for the pledge next week, sometime between March 11th and March 15th. Then we're going to have the actual launch. Our goal is basically April. It could be sooner or later, depending on how fast we squash basically the front end bugs. Then Passports beta, like internally with Moai Labs, we would love to release this in April, but all of this is really dependent on multiple factors that we can control some and can't control others. Passports launch soon after we hit the $1 million of funding. The goal is to open up the passports then. And then the perpetual funding, just like a very broad timeline, May to July, is like that we can start hitting the roads with like voting and funding, and the whole flywheel gets going. Take a breath. Any comments or questions on these three pillars of basically our roadmap over the next few months? All right. So just want to give you guys some insight to the conversation we had with the UMA protocol. And then after I finish this, we will do a screen share, I promise, and we will get to the actual DApp. If there's one thing we can get across with this perpetual funding machine, it's that it has reach and value outside of Epoch Island. So we're using it for funding projects and people, but this technology can help any project turn lurking community members into legendary contributors. This is what we're going to keep circling, this sentence right here. We believe that we have the ability to help projects turn lurking community members into legendary, this is say contributors. Sorry. So we did meet with the UMA team a few times to discuss what value this could bring them. The discussions are still early, but they seem to believe UMA can find value in this technology as well, specifically helping automate their grants funding process. So what we picked up from them is they have like over $100,000 sitting there for this grants program, but they haven't found a way to properly and efficiently use it. The quality of things coming in might not be good enough, but also people making proposals is not really good enough. But also the review process is very long and tedious. It's just like a lot of issues with these grant funding process. So instead of weeks of review process controlled by a small group, our technology basically gets people funded and contributing immediately. If conversations go well, we plan to make a full proposal to UMA to onboard them natively into our protocol. The primary takeaway here is that any project in any phase can create their own campaign using our technology to activate and engage their community. Byron, I'd love to connect with you sometime and talk about loopring with this in a later date, see if this is of help or not.
Absolutely. Looks cool.
So here's a graphic that we used to show. So these are graphics that are not done, but they were used to show UMA. You have all these community members. Every project has tons of token holders, and they have a small contributing team, like UMA has Risk Labs, and then they don't have a lot of like contributors. That's the gold mine of every project. It's like, how do we turn these just lurking people into actually impact driven people? So we believe this red circle here is where it can be a huge value to a lot of projects. So we basically created this graphics for UMA where I'll let you guys check this out if you guys are interested, but this is not UMA's website. We took UMA's website and we showed them what it would look like if they integrated our technology. So you enter basically the name of the value that you want to add to UMA. You create a funding portal. Then people can vote on your funding portal and you can start receiving UMA tokens. And then from UMA's perspective, they basically choose how many tokens that they want to use, what is the voting token that they want to use, and what is the start and end date. So you can essentially look at this as like a liquidity mining campaign, but instead of liquidity, you're mining for talent ambition, just impact, people driving impact to your project. It's as easy as turning on a liquidity campaign, but instead it's a community engagement program. And it's very open-ended, unlike traditional ones. Any questions on the UMA before we go to the last section here? All right. In the home stretch here. So last week, Houdini did raise his voice. Go ahead.
I have a question or a comment on the timeline or the roadmap. What would you say to someone who, upon seeing this timeline or roadmap, thinks that, okay, apparently nothing will be happening in Epoch Island until July or until the $1 million goal gets hit? So why would I get involved right now in Epoch Island if he is on the sideline, or she? Or why would I keep being involved? Let me move on, look somewhere else, and then I will revisit these guys and see what they are up to by July or August.
Let me ask you this, Houdini. Do you feel like you want to disappear for a few months and then come back in July?
Myself? Absolutely not.
Okay, why don't you?
I'm talking about someone who is less excited, less engaged, less.
And why are you excited and engaged?
Because I go back to history with you guys. This is one. I believe in what you're doing. I believe in the ultimate goal of Epoch Island. So I'm here from the start or even pre-start. But I'm talking about someone who has been lurking from the sideline. And okay, I heard about this Epoch Island. Let me give this assembly recording a listen and see. Nothing will be happening until July. Let me just get back in summer and revisit what they are doing.
So my view is lurkers who don't plan on getting involved will always be lurkers, even whenever we launch in July. They're just going to be hanging out. If our goal is to double down on people like you, Houdini, who do get excited about what we're doing and are willing to be on calls like this on Friday. So I think the term comes to mind, don't sell the unsellable. I want to get people involved that are interested in what we're doing. And what I'm really excited personally for myself, Houdini, is these new elder calls that I'm having. I'm meeting with every single elder to like basically re-onboard every single one of them and reaching out to new people. The same thing that got you excited about Epoch Island whenever you learned, I think it's not crazy that somebody who learns about Epoch Island today has that same bit of feeling of like seeing that something bigger is being built here, that it's just going to take some time to like see it being used. And so maybe that answer will or won't suffice for you, but I think we're in the plumbing stages right now, and the people who are in the plumbing stages are in the bell curve of adoption. They're the people that are patient. They see that the long-term impact and upside, and you guys see that being here early is going to come back and pay tenfold, not just financially, but emotionally, whatever it is. So
Absolutely.
that would be my 10-second or my 2-minute pitch for you.
Yeah, absolutely. No, for myself, I'm generally speaking, in real life, I'm a long-term investor, so it's not about flipping coins or projects and.
Yeah, so I guess that's where I'm at, is like, I'm not interested in trying to convince a coin flipper why they should flip their coin with us right now. Like, I'm interested in finding the people who want to get a bag and hang around for a decade. And that's what I'm going to focus on.
Perfect.
We're in the PreAlpha group of the Hacktivate project that's going to create a PreAlpha project.
It's so meta, Steve. Yeah. That's what's happening right now. Houdini, I apologize if I was a little too direct there, but that's just like how I strongly feel about people. But Houdini, again, just so you've already known this, but I know you've been around before Epoch Island. You've been around for a long time, and we just need to create 100 more of you that feel the same way and find you in crypto, in the space. So let's get into the last part here, 100K early access beta competition. So we did announce that basically next week, between March 11th and 15th, we are keeping it open-ended on purpose, because this is going to be kind of a spontaneous campaign that's we're still trying to just do a few things here, but it is somewhere between next week, next Monday and next Friday. The total budget that we have here is 100,000 Epoch. And then the style of this competition is like a little speed, but also some bug finding. So just for some tips, if you want to participate, and then I promise, we'll get into a screen share. Bridge to base, if you want to get ahead of like get ready for this. I've bridged a little. I will sympathize and empathize. I understand it's expensive to bridge to base, but just a quick pro tip. Steve, you found this morning or yesterday that like EIP 4844 is around the corner, I guess next week, and that it will greatly reduce gas
next
prices.
Tuesday.
Okay, so just transparently, guys, because you guys are on the call, we're trying to hold off the competition until this EIP is passed to kind of save some gas fees. That's not a for sure thing, but we will try to hold off as much as possible if you guys want to wait for gas fees to bridge over. And the next thing I would encourage is if you do want to make sure you don't miss the information, go here into your email. This list of emails is the first people that will see the competition. So be on the lookout for that because there will be some speed elements involved. And again, trying to be transparent, the general time we like to do these is between kind of around the time of this call today. So whatever time it is on this call today for you is generally when we like to do the competitions. We understand that some people in Australia are going to get screwed over, but the majority of people should at least be awake at this point in time. So this is also subject to change, but how we're thinking about it, Steve, do you feel like I should even share, like, are you feeling comfortable enough that we can at least say that this is like, or should we skip this for now?
Specifically what?
Like the 70-20-10 idea?
Yeah. Go ahead and share that.
Okay.
Sure.
So basically, if you find a bug that's a high level bug, you can earn up to 70,000 Epoch. You will earn 70,000 Epoch. However, if somebody else finds a high level bug, basically you two are sharing that 70,000. So if one person finds a high level bug, you would earn 70,000. There's $20,000 for a medium bug. So if you're the only one, you would get 20,000 Epoch. And then low level would be 10,000. Generally speaking, a high level bug is a financial, somebody's capital is at risk. So if you do a transaction on the beta and it made us realize that like there's maybe a smart contract issue, that would be a high level bug. People lost money. Medium bug, Steve, you've thought about this more deeply. How are you wanting to categorize medium and low level bugs? Do you have them off the top of your head or no?
Trying to remember. So medium is like there was a fundamental change that had to be made on the DApp.
Yeah. Like it crashes, page goes black, something like that. Yeah.
Or a button that you clicked if the transaction completely fails, and we have to go investigate why. And then we had to actually make a code change to fix something because it wasn't working on mobile, for example. It worked fine on desktop. Low level is like a typo. A button showed up 5 pixels overlapped on something that it shouldn't have, like minor stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
But we'll analyze these a lot more clearly whenever we get the article out here early next week.
Uh-oh, I might have to stop screen sharing so you guys don't see the password here. Give me a second. I'm gonna stop screen share. But we are now officially going to get into the actual walkthrough of the DApp. Is the password the same? Okay, I got in. I got it figured out. All right, let me connect my wallet real quick. Okay, cool. Let me start screen sharing again. All right, so for future people watching this recording, we're going to do a quick run through of the DApp and how you can participate in the beta. So there's 3 main buttons up here. The primary one that you're going to be focused on is the pledge section here. The earn tab is not relevant to you right now, but just to kind of share what's really cool, this is where our elders will be able to go in and basically choose the people that they want to sponsor. So I could have 0x Houdini, and then my code for Houdini is Houdini cool. And then I have this Houdini cool link, and then I would send this over to Houdini. And Houdini, you would need to use this code to basically make a pledge. So this is kind of a a really cool one-to-one invitation system that is irrelevant to you guys, but I just want to share with you guys. So there's also a wait list. So after you make a pledge, I don't think this is Ben. I think you said that this is not properly working right now, or maybe it will be by next week, but we'll skip that for now. So where your focus is going to be is on this pledge. So reserve your ownership of Epoch Island by pledging any amount to the Epoch Island Builders Fund. This is like the based liquidity pool, essentially. And so you can come in here and then choose a smaller, or any amount. Actually, you can do whatever you want to do. And then you'll see here, there's actually some transactions of 2 hours ago, 2 hours ago, 2 hours ago. You can even click on these and see what those were about. And then you'll see some really cool information. Your estimated ownership of Epoch Island. Is there a reason? Is it because it's not big enough? I think that's the reason. Yeah. So like, as you could see here, the more I pledge, the more of my estimated ownership of Epoch Island there will be. There's also this concept of a wave list, or wait list wave. So essentially, there's 3 waves that's going to be happening. Steve, where did we establish the waves for this specific?
0. So it's not built into this live yet. It should be by
Okay.
next week. But like I think 0.1, 0.01.
Okay. So basically, if you do it over 0.1, you'll be in wave 1. If you do it over 0.01, you'll be in wave 2. If you do it over 0.001, you'll be in wave, or anything below that would be wave 3, I guess. But that's not as relevant to you guys. I'm just giving you guys some insight. So here's the really cool thing. This is actually what we're using to onboard people in Epoch Island. You can make a pledge, but you can remove your pledge at any point in time with no cost. So let's go through. Now, I already made a pledge. So my button says increase pledge. On your end, it'll say make pledge. So you do this, it'll show you your estimated ownership. You click pledge. This is all being done on Sepolia right now. It's very straightforward and simple. So what's actually happening here is you're locking your capital up that's completely 100% accessible by you at any point in time. There are no fees to withdrawal. There are no penalties. There's no hidden anything. You're literally just paying gas fees on base. Then once you've done that, you are receiving back what we're calling a visa. So your visa is the temporary NFT that you have that puts you on the Epoch waitlist. It's like applying for a country. What you're basically doing here is applying to get into the Epoch Island network state. So I can come over here, and I have shown that I have a 0.001 pledge. And again, at any point in time, if I want to remove my pledge, essentially what I'm doing is burning my visa and getting my money back. So you can do this whenever you want. Now, what it's also going to do that Umar would probably really want me to make sure I share is you will basically reset your ranking on the wait list. So if you do this, you basically kind of need to start over on the wait list. So that may not be fruitful for you, but you get to choose that. So I just, I think, did I click? Sorry, MetaMask upgraded and has given me a bunch of stuff. So let me try that one more time. Did you guys have a new MetaMask wallet? Oh, transaction failed. Oh, it's because I already did it. Okay, so basically I've burned it and I have no pledges right now. And you'll see also on the wait list that like I'm nowhere to be found. So I wish I could have articulated that a little better, but just so you guys know, Steve, what is the primary things people are going to be doing? They're going to be making pledges, they're going to be increasing pledges, and they're going to be removing pledges. Is there any other actions that you're expecting to see outside of that?
Those are
Making
the
pledge. Okay. So you guys on next week won't be doing anything other than making a pledge increase. Now here's the interesting part that I guess it's cool that Ben already coded this. I didn't have to put this. You guys will need a sponsorship code. You need an elder to sponsor you to get into Epoch Island. So, Steve, for now, what is the system we're thinking about doing for this?
people will go to our Discord, the beta channel. It will have the information that explains what to do, but it's going to say open a ticket to ask an elder, and anyone from the Mobile Labs team will respond and give you and create an elder code. Now, for us to do that, you have to provide your test address you want to be using for this, or whatever address you want to use for this.
Yeah.
So because the way this works is your address is connected to the code given to you.
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Steve. So they will go to Discord to basically get their code. And then just to show you guys, like if I say this is not a code, but check this out. If I click H, this is a code that I created for myself. Now all of a sudden it's not red, it's working. So now I can make my pledge here, 0.01. Let's do this. I make the pledge, transaction pinning, very, very clean, simple to do. And then you should by next week see yourself on the wait list. So there's lots of reasons we came up with this model, but essentially what's really cool about it is like, I think you all guys would agree. Oh, it didn't show this last time. Here's another thing that because I made the pledge for the first time, after you complete your pledge, optionally, you can enter your email. What this will do is will tell you, hey, you're now eligible to convert your pledge to a passport. And we're going to basically be notifying people once we hit the $1 million pledge goal that, hey, you can move it over here if you were in one of the top ones. So enter whatever you want there if you'd like to do that. But the biggest takeaway here that I would think about is what's really cool is elders are very, very much incentivized to help people make pledges. And to tell their whole network about it. Number two, instead of like a regular scammy referral system where people are just like throwing their links all around, if I go and create a code for somebody, I have to enter their ETH address. So no matter if I say, this is my code, you can't use this unless it's attached to your ETH address. So I can't just share this on social media and expect it to work. So it's really individualized. And what we really like about this is it creates one-on-one conversations instead of like very informal, like spam across the internet type of stuff. So this will be very intimate communication here. Okay, that's it. Any comments or questions about how this works or what to expect next week? Ooh. There will be a write-up as well in an email with more instructions that is not just me trying to do all this on the fly. So that'll be a lot more efficient than watching this video, but wanted to at least show you guys a visual of what to expect. All right. If there's no more comments or questions, I'm going to stop screen sharing. Houdini, I think we got to your number 7 here enough, but
yeah, one note I had that I forgot to circle back to was people were asking how to prevent how Activate works in social clout. Was something I remember you and I talked about a whole lot when we were trying to poke holes in this earlier this week. That if there is a scammer or there is someone trying to take advantage of this system, there isn't a whole lot they're going to be able to extract out of it, even in a lot of worst case scenarios, because there's a social clout aspect of, if no one's voted for someone, they may not get votes because people don't want to be the first into the pool. And even if they do get a few votes, it may be like what, $5 worth, $10 worth. There won't be a whole lot of value extraction there. So unless someone that's in our system that doesn't spend a lot of time researching or isn't very aware of what they're voting on, they're going to be looking to see who else has already voted for what else, and they may just jump into what other people have voted on. So especially if it's names they recognize.
Yeah, I think the end game here is like, and down the road you see Vitalik or Balaji voting on somebody or sponsoring somebody, there's going to be some followers for sure. You know what I mean? And that's good and bad in some type of ways. But Steve, is that what you're kind of getting at? Where like over time, you'll be able to have an on-chain record of who you voted for. And so like if you let in an Islander who's like complete, like if you let in BitBoy or something to Epoch Island, that's forever going to be attached to you as an elder, that you were the one who let BitBoy into Epoch Island. And so there's like this really interesting follow the trail. Oh, Steve, I think we forgot to say something very, very, very important. Neither visas or passports are transferable. So you can't escape your past and your reputation. All of your actions are down to you. So if an elder gets out of line, if an islander does something, we do have the ability to basically exit them from the ecosystem. Now they get all of their underlying value out of their passport. We're not stealing people's money, but there is a social thing, just like in regular life with like a social credit. If you act out of line, you can be exited from the system and it might be hard for you to get back in. So I realize we forgot to share that these are not transferable NFTs. Cool. Anything else that I missed, Steve, or from the community?
Elder filtration, someone brought up earlier as a friction point that I was hoping we'd have some more debate on, but we moved on. That friction point.
Can you clarify elder filtration? Is that what you said?
The first step of, we're considering the possibility of making it a requirement that an elder has to have sponsored in order for it to move forward.
Are you talking about like a funding proposal?
Yes.
Okay.
Like
Yeah,
it's not confirmed yet. We're just debating it.
So yeah, it's a trade-off. The more friction you have, potentially the higher quality proposals will get through. But it is kind of antithetical to like open permissionless systems. So just so you guys know, there's like 30 plus elders right now. In a year from now, they're probably going to be over 100 good people. Like it shouldn't be too hard to get in front of an elder. And we're also going to try to, in my onboarding process, I'm going to get with all the elders to like share how they would like to be contacted through Twitter or Telegram or whatever.